Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster May, good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Thursday, 8th of June 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the island. Background to that news and sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates and the newsmakers in person this evening. A pay deal of £1,000 and 6% offered to nurses. All 36 houses to be demolished at Reayrt Aalin in Peel. How do we get more sidecars to the TT? A £3,000 fine for flying a drone near the course, and the Red Arrows are back this evening.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster May, Siobhan Fletcher.
Faster May. The mountain road is shut between Ramsey and the bungalow. Police are dealing with an RTC just below Guthrie's. An engineer from Dartford has been fined £3,000 after being caught flying a drone near the TT course. Alex Matthew Shrimpton of Rayford Close was arrested in Sulby yesterday while racing was ongoing. Proposed new laws making it illegal to sell e-cigarettes and vapes to children on the Isle of Man will take their first legislative step next week. Cabinet Office Minister Kate Lord-Brennan will present the vaping product bill for its first reading in the House of Keys on Tuesday. And the Red Arrows will be back in the skies over Douglas Bay this evening. The air display will take place from 7:30pm. Further afield, 4 children, all under 3, have been stabbed, suffering life-threatening injuries in a park in the French Alps. One of them has been confirmed as a British national. Prince William's opened a new cancer research and treatment centre in London. The day figures reveal a worsening of NHS waiting times in England. And Strictly Come Dancing professional Amy Dowden's revealed her breast cancer surgery's gone well.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Siobhan, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. There's a strong wind warning for the North Irish Sea. Intermittent strong wind warning. State of sea is slight or moderate. And the weather fine and dry for the Red Arrows this evening with a moderate easterly. Overnight minimum is 11 degrees. For tomorrow, bank holiday Friday, a cloudy start with patchy hill mist, then sunny and a moderate to fresh easterly. Daylight maximum 20 degrees, down to 14 through the night. Into senior race day, Saturday dry with sunny spells, a moderate easterly wind, top temperature 20, and then outbreaks of rain arriving later after dark into early Sunday. Sunset tonight, 12 minutes before 10. The late low tide is at 7 minutes before 10. High waters 10 to 4 tomorrow morning. Sunrise 13 minutes before 5. And the morning low water at 16 minutes past 10.
The Manx Glass and Glazing showroom is currently closed for TT and will reopen on Monday the 12th of June.
Nursing staff on the Isle of Man are being consulted over another pay offer being put forward by Manx Care. The Royal College of Nursing members have been offered £1,000 consolidated payment for the pay year 22-23, in addition to 6% it's already been offered. The union's senior regional officer for the Isle of Man is Mary Ann Parkinson.
It's extremely frustrating, but it's letting the staff think that they're not valued. Do you know what I mean? We've got to where we've got to, but it's took 2 years to get to where it is, and a lot of fighting, and I appreciate Manx Care have been to the Treasury to try and get more money, but we've literally had a drip feed on and off for the last 2 years. So yeah, extremely frustrating, and more frustrating at the minute because we've not got our membership an agreement yet. It's going out to consultative ballot with them, so we're no guarantee that the members are going to accept it. I think they're as frustrated as us at times. I have to say that they've got a purse that they've got to work within. They've been back to Treasury and they've got additional money, but they've made it very clear to us in giving us this increase, they are going to have to do some significant decision making around the care and the provisions that they can can afford within Manx Care, which makes us feel bad. That's almost like blackmailing us. That's not our problem from a workforce point of view in nursing. Then they need to pick that up with the Treasury. We as a college are trying to get to meet with the MHKs because, negotiations can go so far. We're asking for what we're asking for. I think from a college point of view, we don't normally recommend. We negotiate and get the best offer we can, and we take that offer to the membership. I think that we'll get to a point, where we have to meaningfully negotiate to a point rather than drip feeding. We have to be open and honest all sides to say what is a realistic ask and what are they realistically going to prepare to offer. I think there's lessons learned going along with this. It's damaged a lot of people and damaged a lot of relationships, and we've lost a lot of good people, have left Ireland, are considering leaving the profession. So, we've got to look at it in the wider picture.
Well, the weather's fine tonight. The red arrows are back in the skies over Douglas Bay. This evening the air display takes place from 7:30. Tom Bold is the Red One squadron leader.
Last year we displayed as a 7, and this is the start of our process to get back to the 9. The 9 is what we do. It's our raison d'etre. It is our trademark, and we are going to get back there. But it's got to be a process. I've got 3 new pilots to train this year in order to make it an 8. We'll train another 3 next year, and they will be back as a 9. But what you will see from those of you who watched it last year as a 7, just that one extra jet makes the display more dynamic, more smoke, more noise. We've actually got a longer display this year than we did last year. So you will see some of our trademark manoeuvres and some others that we haven't brought back in a while. So I really hope you enjoy the display. This year I've decided to go for a bit of a longer display, and we've actually got some more complicated shapes in there and second half manoeuvres. So ultimately the whole choreography comes down to me, but I base that on quite a few factors in order to put the display together. So if there's no cloud in the sky, then I will loop and roll us, and you will get to see our full display. If for whatever reason we've got a bit of cloud out there, but I can still roll the formation, we'll still do a rolling display. If the weather's really not great, so we've got about 1,000-foot cloud base, we can still put a display on in that.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Fast tonight, it's 23 minutes before 6. A fisherman's been jailed after attempting to strangle his ex-partner in the street and then fleeing the Isle of Man. Tessa Hawley was at Douglas Courthouse.
Darren James Carnacan of St Paul's Square in Ramsey followed the woman through Peel in the early hours of the 1st of September 2020. During sentencing at Douglas Courthouse, the 42-year-old's advocate described his actions as a momentary lapse of self-control. The court heard how the woman, who was on her way to meet a friend at around 1:30 in the morning, heard footsteps behind her and started to walk into more well-lit areas so she could be seen by others. It's almost as if she anticipated something happening, the prosecutor told the court. The woman heard someone swearing and calling her a liar. When she reached Lake Lane, Carnacan came out of the darkness and slapped her across the face. She fell backwards and he jumped on top of her and began strangling her with both hands. She later told police, who were called by a concerned neighbour, she thought she was going to be killed. Carnacan initially denied the common assault charge and was due to stand trial. However, he left the island and missed his court appearances, meaning he was deemed unlawfully at large. The court heard he'd returned to the Isle of Man this year and was arrested in May. Carnacan's advocate told the court the couple had ended their relationship in August 2020 and he'd wanted to talk to her about the issues, describing it as a spontaneous attack without any planning. This is not a random attack on a member of the public, he said, adding it was his decision to return to face the music. Describing it as an extremely serious offence, High Bailiff Jane Hughes sent Carnacan to prison for 4 months, telling him she must have been frightened.
The subject of sidecar entries on the Snaefell mounting course has been a source of some discussion on Radio TT this year. Of the 33 entries in total, not all were able to start as some drivers were unable to get passengers. Former TT competitor Mike Booth spoke about what options he thinks there could be to boost numbers.
I think it's not just a question of this event. I think it'd be great if the TT itself could do something to make sidecar racing a little bit more popular, but it's across the board really, and sidecar racing, it is fantastic, and it's an absolute spectacle, but it's difficult to do, it's difficult to organise. It's like I said before, you can't just go and buy one of these from your local bike dealership. The kind of bespoke made, the cheap, they're very, very difficult to run, I think when you compare it to, when you talked about the gulf between the top riders and the later starting riders, so I think to compare it to the bikes is almost a little bit unfair. I know you're not necessarily comparing it to the bikes, but because the bikes have got such an incredible strength in depth, it's to have that in the sidecars, it's going to be difficult, because it's just something that's not quite as easy to get involved with in bikes. And again, like we were saying, it does come down to money. We talked about some teams sitting their bikes on beer crates, because I'm sure they would love to have a beautiful, nice, manufactured ramp and table, but it's hard, because the guys will be putting all the money into the bike, all the money into the engine, because like Jenny said, you need a fast engine if you want to be anything like competitive here. So I think maybe the idea of a sidecar cup class might work. It might give a few more teams the encouragement they need, and the chance to be competitive in something and take home something that's a bit shinier than a finishing medal.
Sea-Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Mothership Ben McCree departed Heysham at 13 minutes past 2. As I speak, she's just nudged into the inner harbour. We'll be going astern onto the link span shortly. Departing this evening at 7:45. Heading for Heysham, arriving there at about 11:30 tonight. Overnight departure 2:15, back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. Manannan, the fast craft, left Douglas at 12 minutes before 5. She'll be in Heysham at about 20 past 7 this evening. Departing from Heysham at 7:45, back to Douglas at 10:15 tonight. Tomorrow morning's departures. Manannan departs Douglas at 6:30 for Heysham, and Ben McCree departs Douglas at 8:45 for Heysham.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
In less than 2 years, residents at all 36 properties in the Reayrt Aalin housing estate in Peel will be asked to leave their homes where they're demolished and rebuilt. It comes after a lack of maintenance historically from local government. But the chair of Peel Commissioners, Hazel Hannon, says inadequate building materials were used when they were originally built in 1992.
They were substandard when they were built. About 20 years ago, I had an architect, government architect, come to have a look at them. I was in the Keys at the time. He came to have a look at them, just a visual look at the outside, and he wasn't happy about them. So I wrote to the commissioners, but the commissioners replied and said that they were all right. There wasn't a problem with them. This wasn't an easy decision for us to take. I'm a person that supports anything that we can do to improve climate change, and that doesn't involve demolishing buildings. We could have spent money on it, but would not have brought them up to a reasonable living standard. We had meetings with the residents when we explained our decision, and they were upset. These were their homes they've taken care of. But during that course of that conversation, people were saying they had a dehumidifier in each of their rooms. That's not an acceptable way for people to live. These properties were substandard when they were first built. I don't think we've spent enough on them in the past. We would be looking at high specifications, and it might cost more, but in the long run it would be money well spent. It's the wrong time to be doing it. We should have been doing it 10 years ago when interest rates were low. Yes, it will be distressing, but people move in and out of our properties on a regular basis. If the properties are substandard, they will be upset. It's just unfortunate that this has happened. We wouldn't be going through all of this if we weren't looking at a better standard of property that was going to last longer than 30 years. We would be looking for a lifespan of at least double that.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, in corporate news, Kavana stock was trading at 25% higher after the online car retailer updated its outlook following months of aggressive aggressive cost-cutting. The Tempe, Arizona-based company announced it expects to achieve adjusted EBITDA at above $50 million in the second quarter of 2023. Earlier this year, Carvana signalled it had reached profitability at an operating level in Q2, but hadn't given an exact account. For a full daily market report, go to RamseyCrookall.com. The clothing industry wants to replace bulky clothing tags with scannable QR codes. The industry maintains digital product labels give customers access to online information about the garment like recycling instructions, supply chain details, product recalls and sustainability practices. Manufacturers can update the information linked to the two-dimensional labels and also solve issues like counterfeiting and tag removal that might damage the latest designer garment. Fashion brands like Ralph Lauren and Patagonia have started incorporating QR codes into clothes and report high consumer engagement and willingness to scan. Critics say that online details about care instructions, fibre content or country of origin may well be limited to well-to-do shoppers who can scan the tags with their smartphones.
The Stock Market Report. Brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks continue to tread water. US stocks were little changed. Gold priced about 1% higher. Oil dipped. The numbers now from Ramsey Crookall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 down 0.33% at 7,599. The DAX in Frankfurt closed up 0.2% at 15,989. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial was up 0.25% at 33,744. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up nearly 0.9% at 13,214, and the S&P 500 in Chicago up 0.4% at 4,283. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 25.4 cents, €1 16.4 cents, and 23 South African rand 65.4 cents. In commodities, gold up nearly 1.5% at $1,967 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 3.25% currently at $74.33 a barrel.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
This year's Ramsey Sprintfest was really successful and can sit in the cultural mindset of the TT, according to Ramsey Commissioner Ewan McGuinness, who says the event could be an anchor point for the town.
It was really successful. This is the third year we've been running it, and the previous two times we've run it either side of COVID. The weather's been, it's been acceptable to run, but it's not been brilliant. So with this fantastic weather we've had this TT, it's really allowed Sprintfest to shine. This is something that can sit in the cultural mindset of the calendar of TT, that the middle weekend you come to Ramsey, there's great music on every night, you can come to watch the bikes during the day, stay for the atmosphere in the evening, come to Ramsey for your stay over TT, and there's no need to start going into Douglas every night, because with a good bit of history behind it, Sprintfest can really grow to become an anchor point for the town. I appreciate the concerns that a lot of people have raised. I say a lot of people, some people have raised regarding the parking. It is just 4 days, it is just sort of 40 or so spaces, and we did mitigate that with bike parking during the day. And Ramsey was busy, but I drove into Ramsey every single day and I got a park, maybe not ideally where I wanted, but there's a fair amount of parking in Ramsey, and I think the small inconvenience of a little bit of loss of parking is outweighed by the overall benefit to the town of Sprintfest. So we did mitigate with bike parking. Putting cars in that car park risks the event going ahead, and whilst I appreciate the concerns of those direct businesses, I think I'd like to believe that they can see the greater good to the town and have a little bit of awkwardness for them for a couple of days over the entire fortnight. I think it's a fair sacrifice.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio Sport.
Faster my Rob Pritchard.
Faster my, good evening. Starting tonight with cycling, and after his fairy tale final stage win at the Giro d'Italia, Mark Cavendish is back in action for Astana, Kazakhstan at the ZLM Tour in the Netherlands. After finishing 35th in the prologue time trial event yesterday, the Manxman embarked on the 203.1km first stage proper of the race this afternoon. There was no podium finish or UCI points for Cavendish this time on the opening route, as he joins a slightly changed team from the one he raced with in Italy a few weeks ago. Elsewhere in cycling locally, the fourth round of this year's Cycle 360 MTB series this coming weekend has been postponed. Organisers say whilst entries were good, despite it being TT race week, they've struggled to get enough volunteers to help run the event on Sunday, due to the challenging situation of it being a race and bank holiday weekend. Furthermore, they say they think it will be better if the contest was run in a couple of weeks' time. Anyone entered for the stage will be contacted with a new date once confirmed. Anyone who wants a refund is asked to contact the organisers as soon as possible. Turning now to football, and Manx Football Club gyms have begun their search for a new first-team manager. The club is now inviting applications for the role, with interested parties asked to send submissions to gafcchairman@gmail.com. During the 22-23 campaign, the gym's first team finished 9th in DPS Limited Division 2. Elsewhere, their combination side finished bottom of DPS Limited Combination 2. And finally, there was double success for Ireland badminton player Martin Chung during competition in England at the weekend. Competing at the Swindon Stars Under-19B event on the 4th of June, Chung went on to take the gold medal in the Under-19 men's singles category. He did so by winning all but one of his games in straight sets on the way to success, including in the final against Yi Zhanghao. There was to be more good news during the evening session of the Deanery CE Academy, as he teamed up with Jamie Wakefield for the men's Under-19 doubles tournament. The pair would go on to claim silver in the category, only losing out to Rayan Asif and Zach Tang in the final.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound, everything's more or less on time so far today. Next inbound is the 10 to 8 Loganair from London City showing on time. It's the 5 to 8 returning patient transfer Loganair from Liverpool on time. 8 EasyJet from Manchester, and the 25 to 9 EasyJet from London Gatwick all on time. Outbound tonight, the 10 to 6 EasyJet to Liverpool, then it's the 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool, both on time. 25 to 9 EasyJet to Manchester is on time, and the 9 EasyJet to London Gatwick, fingers crossed, on time tonight. Manton Road is open again after the earlier closure. The Ballymenic Road in Derby's got phased closures due to water main replacement. And remember, if I have to say it, cycling is prohibited on the mountain during the TT period. So is walking.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre. Spread your payments interest-free. Get more with
Quayside. An engineer from Dartford has been fined £3,000 after being caught flying a drone near the TT course. Tessa Hawley with that story.
Alex Matthew Shrimpton of Rayford Close was arrested in Solby yesterday whilst racing was ongoing. At Douglas Courthouse today, the 23-year-old admitted flying the unmanned aircraft within 1,000 metres of the course without lawful authority or excuse. The court heard race control at the grandstand had been notified that a drone was being flown in a field near Selby Bridge at around 2:20. Police attended the scene to arrest Shrimpton, claiming in a post on social media that officers had climbed through a river and barbed wire fencing in order to do so. The prosecutor said the TT visitor was cooperative and had handed over his mobile phone, adding that Shrimpton told officers he didn't know he wasn't allowed to use the drone as there was no signage, suggesting he should have looked up the rules on the government website before coming to the island. He added ignorance of the law is no excuse or any defence. Arguing this point, Shrimpton's advocate replied how many people would go on holiday and look at the laws of the land for where they're going. It's a preposterous suggestion. Adding that his client accepted he'd broken the law, he said whilst the drone had been flown near to the course, it hadn't been flown over it. Sentencing Shrimpton, magistrates told him he should have been more responsible, adding, can you imagine the catastrophe that could have been caused? We have to send a very firm message that we want to have a safe TT. The fine and prosecution costs of £125 must be paid before Shrimpton is released from custody. His drone, memory card and battery will also be destroyed.
Update. Brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
The Baton of Hope is on Manannan currently, back to the UK after spending a couple of days on the Isle of Man, kicking off what's being called the biggest suicide prevention and awareness campaign in the British Isles. The Baton, which was created by gold and silversmiths to the royal family, will now travel to Glasgow as it works its way through 12 cities in 12 days, ending in Westminster. The campaign is spearheaded by a former BBC and Sky News journalist, Mike McCarthy.
What's happened with bringing the Baton of Hope to the Isle of Man, because this is the first really public preview of the tour, is that we've recognised that people are ready to talk about this. They are ready to embrace the idea and to move towards a zero suicide society. What's going to happen in each of those 12 cities is that the baton will be carried primarily by people who've lost a loved one to suicide or by people who've survived a suicide attempt. I think people very often don't realise that they are far more loved than they believe. There are far more people who want them to stay than they sometimes believe. So we're trying to talk to people who find themselves in a dark place and say, stay. There are armies of us out here who want you to stay. We care about you. And the Isle of Man have been so warm and so welcoming. You know, the TT races have been absolutely incredible. The bereaved survivors of suicide on the island have been, you know, welcoming. It's just been so incredible the way that we've been embraced. We couldn't have imagined that we would get such a huge response here from people, and we'll be leaving the island with hope in our hearts because of what we've seen and what we felt here.
That's it for Update tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Siobhan Fletcher, producer Rhiann Evans. Stick around after the news at 6 o'clock. We're in the archive with Judith Lay and George Formby. And Jack Cannell, Jeff's father. It's all TT in the archive after the news at 6 o'clock. Have a great weekend. Back on Monday.
WINT. Andy Wint. The Nation Station. Manx Radio.